Hello, today we're going to talk about having depression versus suffering the pain from parental narcissistic abuse. And this is part two on a previous video I made on the same subject. And this video specifically, I'm going to address how we as an adult can recover our authentic selves. I'm Anala Love, and my channel helps build community to support your recovery from parental narcissistic abuse by talking about the truth about parental abuse, its long-term effects, and some tools that may help you in your recovery going from post-traumatic disorder to post-traumatic growth. What I'm about to talk about is based on my experience. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm just someone who survived parental abuse. I've also survived other types of abuse, romantic, narcissistic abuse. I'm a veteran. I survived military sexual trauma, and bullying, racial trauma, being a black person in America, being a black woman. Every type of relational trauma you can think of, I've survived it. I'm 46. I made it 46 years with the amount of mental health and physical health I have, and I'm going to share how I was able to survive the trauma and start recovering my authentic self. So how can we do this? The first step is building a strong foundation for yourself, for ourselves. This is not something I planned. This is just what I did that helped me to survive. I went back into my life trying to think about what did I do to survive? And I want to tell you what I incorporated in my life to survive the abuse to make it where I am today in recovery. My foundation is loving and following God, not religion. I grew up in church, Christian church, and that's how I was introduced to the concept of God. And so a lot of my visualization of God comes from the Christian faith, but it's a sincere personal relationship that's developed over time, a very close relationship. I held on to my relationship with God with dear life because that was my only salvation through a lot of the suffering and the pain. I lived off of prophetic, people who would prophesy. I have a prophecy that was said over me back in '95. I still have it. I typed it up. It's on my refrigerator, to remind me of God's promises, and I keep a daily dialogue. It's a deep and very real relationship that's not based in religion. Not that there's anything wrong with religion, but it's not religious. It's very personal, surviving for dear life relationship with my higher power that I call God. It started, I believe, I grew up in church, so I was introduced that way, but the personal relationship began. I was 18. I went into a literal closet, and I was just in distress. I was very hurt. I was very confused. I was suffering. I didn't realize I was suffering from abuses, but I knew I was in a lot of pain. I was very confused. I was confused about my life. I was confused about who I was. I was just in pain. And so I literally cried out to God. And for him, I say it's a him. I don't believe God has a gender, but I prefer maybe one day in my life I'll refer to God as a her or they. But I prayed as what I'm seeing in church, is not what I think who you are. There's just a lot of things that is shady and weird to me, and I don't think that's you. If you're a God of life, I was taught that you're love and you're truth and you're all these good things, but I'm not seeing that in these people who profess you. So I'm confused, and I need you to show you I need you, God, to show me who you are for real, not what I'm looking at, because what I'm looking at in church is not, I don't think it's you. So I asked him, directly, is I need you to show me who you are, the truth of who you are. I need you to teach me who you are. And I don't care how you come. I don't care how you teach me. It doesn't have to be the Bible, because frankly, I don't understand the Bible. When I read it, how I'm interpreting it, how it's translating in my mind is not how I'm hearing a pastor or somebody else translating it. Not that it's wrong. I just don't get it. I just didn't understand it. So it's like, come to me, Lord God, in a way that I can understand you, and also give me the discernment to know what's you and what's not. Because there's all kind of people saying all kind of things. I need you to bless me with discernment, and also the wisdom. Like you bless Solomon with wisdom. Give me that, because that's something I personally value. And that was a conversation I had that was very real, and he made good on it. And that I haven't suffered since that conversation. I have, but my life has been spared in ways I didn't realize until I came into recovery after going no contact. Like true, legit, like recovery. So from that relationship came faith, and faith is what gave me hope to keep going. Faith that God is going to make everything all right. Things are going to work out. It's not going to be how I think I want it, but I trust his wisdom. And I constantly learning about, just spirituality in general. It doesn't have to be of a Christian faith. I read books based in Buddhism and all kinds of different faiths, because I'm looking for the truth. When I said, God, I don't care how you come, as long as you give me discernment, as long as you, show me you in a way that I can understand. So I gather, and I have the, I believe he blessed me with discernment. And so discernment. So it's about me and my understanding based on how I think. And so faith comes from that close relationship that gives me the hope to keep going. The third thing is professional help, therapy. I've been in therapy for about 15 years. Currently, without a therapist, I'm doing self-therapy. Well, I'll explain what that is. While I'm looking for a therapist that specializes in parental narcissistic abuse, and we work well together, I'm looking for that specifically. Until then, I'm going through a self-therapy program that I'll tell you about shortly. And also psychiatry when it was necessary, self-care habits. One of my personal values is health, mental health and physical health. We all have our personal values, and one of them happens to be health for me. So I do it just because I like it, practice my self-care habits, kind of fall in line with my natural tendencies to want to do those type of things. And it has aided me, my diet, exercise, meditation, yoga. I'm not perfect, but I do what I can do, and it's been effective. And self-education, I mentioned, reading different books about spirituality. If any point in time you've ever looked at my library of books, about 75% of them are going to be on self-help and spirituality, and just being curious and just wanting to learn. And knowledge is power, and that has been key to my survival and how I made it over. So that's, building a strong foundation of self part. Recovering my authentic self really started when I went low contact last year and then no contact this year, because I believe that the first step in recovering our authentic self is being in a place where we feel safe to do so. It's hard to do that if we're still bound into a relationship with our narcissistic abuser, which could be our mother, our father, or somebody else who's very close to us. So, we must feel safe for our authentic self to emerge out of the shell without the fear of punishment or criticism, etc. So that may involve going no contact or low contact, somehow develop a boundary so you can feel safe for your body to feel safe, not just your mind, but your body feels safe. And so you need that space so you can learn how to accept and love your authentic self without interruption, without a naysayer. You wake up every day and you still feel good about yourself without having to worry about, walking on eggshells for somebody else who feels uncomfortable with your authentic self. You don't have to worry about that when you develop the boundary that you need to have to allow your authentic self to emerge in safety every single day. So, you have to feel safe enough in your body, and not just in your mind. Trauma is held in the body, not just in the mind. So our body needs to feel safe. And so it can relax enough to heal, and we have to go our body's pace as well. We can't just intentionally will ourselves to heal at a certain place. We have to allow ourselves to go our body's pace and just be patient. Healing goes, at the pace our body naturally wants to go, and we don't have control over that. Not our minds don't have control over that. Not our intention doesn't have control over that. We have to go with that flow and that pace. And there is an aspect of surrender in this, which is a part of love. When you love somebody, there's certain aspects of surrender. And so when you love yourself, you have to surrender to the natural pace of your healing that your body wants to heal. And it's a beautiful feeling to surrender to yourself, to give you that kind of love, maybe the kind of love that you've given to others that you weren't giving back. You can finally give that to yourself, and it's so sacred and beautiful. So during this no contact healing process that I'm allowing my body and my just to blossom into it's healing at its own pace, and I'm going with that flow, and I'm growing, and it's not easy, but it's beautiful and wonderful and freeing and all that. These are some techniques that I am using to flow through that process, to get through the hard times. They talk about the clean and dirty pain, going through that clean pain, which is, pain that's not going to have you ruminating on the pain. It's pain that you come out the other side of that pain and you feel better. You've released. It's a release, the shedding some things, and it's not just ruminating over the pain and just causing more pain. So you're going to have pain going through change like this, going through healing is pain, but it's also gorgeous and beautiful and incredible. And these are 7 techniques that I use to go through to help me through this difficult process. Oh my gosh, it's difficult, but it's necessary and it's awesome. I feel like a champ, And the first step beyond the foundation of my relationship with God, as I know God, as I call God, is transcendental meditation. I talked about in my previous videos, guided meditation for self-compassion. I did that for a year. And after that, I took on transcendental meditation. And that's a meditation technique. It's 20 minutes in the morning and the evening. I'll go into detail about that in a little bit. 2 is diet and exercise. 3, forgiveness. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean by forgiveness. Not what most of us have understood what forgiveness is, but this method that I use. I'll share it with you shortly. 4, setting boundaries. 5, practicing self-compassion. 6, recovering my creativity and exercising it. And 7, therapy or self-therapy. So the first one I mentioned was transcendental meditation. I got a teacher. I got a certified transcendental meditation teacher. I went to the center. I spent 3 days learning the techniques. And then I went to checking appointments where the teacher makes sure I'm doing it right. And I did that like once a month for like 3 or 4 months. And I check in on, not check in, but I participate in a group meditation through Zoom. And the teacher who guides this meditation, he'll go through the steps of transcendental meditation, but you need a teacher, and they'll give you a custom mantra, and it's incredible. It's the best meditation I've had. Besides the guided self-compassion meditation that helped me embody self-compassion, this is the best. And I've been meditating for a long, long time. I used to meditate on my breath, but now I practice this. It's been very key. That's why I listed it first. It's been key to my recovery. It's kept me calm and centered. in a way that no other meditation practice has. And they have programs now where they have like, it used to be very expensive, but they have programs where you can get scholarships or reduced price nowadays because they're trying to spread it to more people. Diet and exercise, I'm never been perfect with my diet. Compared with my friends and family, I'm super healthy, but I've never really reached before now the point where I want it to be as far as my diet. So I tried the Whole30 diet. It took me a while to actually do it because it was scary to me. Like I tried all other kind of diets, all kind of low inflammatory diets, because I've learned that inflammation has been linked to depression. So like let me try different type of low inflammatory diets, and none of them stuck. And I just had a feeling that Whole30 was my answer. Everybody has their answer. I had a neighbor who went keto, and that was her answer. And I felt Whole30 was better for me. And I finally successfully went through the Whole30 challenge. It was very tough. I did a 2-week cleanse, or I stopped eating sugar for 2 weeks, like no form of sugar, no form of sweetener whatsoever for 2 weeks. That was like coming off of a psych drug. You have your, when you come on a psych drug, you have side effects. When you come off it, you have withdrawal. That coming off sugar was like coming off a psych drug. I mean, I had all the headaches, I had the extra depression, and I anticipated that. I was like, and I got to a point, I was like, if I can go all these years by trying all these different types of psych meds and go through all these crazy withdrawal symptoms, I can handle withdrawals from sugar. And it was just like getting off a chemical that comes from a psych med. It was good for me for those 2 weeks, but it was incredible. I felt great afterwards. And then I went into the 30-day Whole30 diet, which is very restrictive, but it's an elimination diet that teaches you how to eat. It teaches you how different ingredients affect you, because when you're done with the 30 days, you, by food group, you add it back in to see how your body reacts. So you're going to go be gluten-free for 30 days, dairy-free, all kinds of free, and you're going to feel great at the end. It's not about losing weight. It's about your health, your body. And you add those ingredients back, you're going to feel what affects you, like how beans and dairy and gluten affects you. And it's a process. I have gone through 4 rounds of Whole30 elimination diet. The last 2, I modified it a little bit, but it's a process. You're not going to do a 30-day and then never ever eat stuff that you want to eat again. It's you get a little bit better each time, and certain things just stick. I used to not like salads, but now I eat at least like 1 or 2 every day. Like I love a salad. I get happy when I make a raw salad. So it's changed how I eat in an effective way, and it takes time. So that's how I changed my diet. And you got to find something that works for you. Forgiveness. Now, I follow the 4-fold forgiveness cycle that Desmond Tutu and I believe his daughter Mpho Tutu, they both wrote a book called The 4-Fold Forgiveness Cycle. Or, I'm going to put the exact description of the book in the description. I'm going to put the link to the book in the description. But basically, this is how it goes. It's not just a matter of, I'm going to forgive somebody. I want to do the Christian thing, the right thing to forgive somebody because that's the right thing to do. Now, it's a process that, kind of like healing, you're not in complete control of. If you really want the benefit of forgiveness, which is not arbitrarily letting you go, it's a healing process that takes both the person that hurt you and yourself to reap the effects of true full forgiveness, because miracles can happen once forgiveness happens. It not only lets you go, lets the pain of what happened to you go, but there's miracles that can happen, healing miracles on both parts in your life, on the transgressor and yourself, can happen when forgiveness is complete, when both parties, the one who victimized you and you who've been victimized, both participate in the forgiveness process as described in this book. And so the first step in this 4-fold process is the acknowledging the harm. You're the victim of somebody doing harm to you. First, you got to acknowledge the harm. You just can't be like, it's not a big deal. You got to acknowledge the harm. On the victimizers, the one who did the transgression against you, they're going to have to admit they did the wrong. If they're going to participate in this process, they're going to have to admit they did the wrong. The second one is you're going to tell your story, but not just tell your story. You're going to tell the truth of the pain of your story. You tell the truth about the pain. And on the other person, the one who's hurt you, they're going to have to witness the anger of your pain when you tell the truth of your pain. They witnessed your anguish. That's part two. The third part is the transgressor asking for forgiveness. And then after you have told the pain of your story as many times as until you get tired of telling the truth of the pain of your story, two people who are safe and can validate your story, to validate you telling your story, to save people. And when you are done saying that, for however long it takes, how many months, years it takes for you to tell the truth about your pain to save people who validate you, that's only then will you be able to grant true forgiveness after this person has asked for forgiveness. And if they choose not to ask for forgiveness and they're just an abuser who just abuses, you can still be able to forgive. You won't be a two-party forgiveness, but you're going to have to tell the pain of your story to save people first until you get tired of it or you're done. And then you are able to grant forgiveness after that. After you're paying, acknowledge the truth, you've said the truth, you told the truth about the pain to people, and they've heard you, and they validated you, and they comforted you, and they heard you, and once you're done with that, then that's when you can forgive. That's when you're able to forgive, truly, to let it go. And then after that, if both parties are participating in the cycle, the last step is to renew or release the relationship. You both decide together whether you renew or release the relationship, because it can't go back to where it was. Everything is different. When you suffer a pain or a trauma, it matters. You can't just act like nothing happened. It did. It changes your life and their life because it matters. You can't just go on like nothing happened. It's not going to be the same. So that's the forgiveness cycle that I'm following. The next one is boundaries. I've learned boundaries through therapy and some other books, but there's a book I started reading that I'll link in the description. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right. Her first name is Nedra, Nedra Glover, last name spelled Tawwab. Set boundaries and find peace. She also has a workbook that goes with that book. It's a pretty good book, but you need to set boundaries, like to protect yourself from other abusers or people who just be violating boundaries. You don't have to be an abuser or narcissist or disorder to violate boundaries. Sometimes, we just need to be told, or some people are just rude and need to be told. That's practicing self-compassion. I've had a couple of videos I created about self-compassion. And so how I practice that is just my internal conversation with myself and those guided meditations that I've discussed in previous videos from the book I discussed. I go through those when necessary. And then recovering my creativity and using it. I went through this book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. When I was a kid, I studied music. I was in the school band, and I really loved it. And there's something traumatic happened with my father and music, and it caused a creative block when it comes to music. So going through that book helped me to start recovering that. It's a painful process. But I dabble in my guitar. I dabble in drums. That's what I learned when I was a kid growing up in school through high school. I still have love for it, so I have my little practice pad and things, that I get into. And the creative tool that I use the most is writing. I'm not a creative writer, but I express myself through writing. And, something that I learned through school. I'm not a natural writer, but that's a way that I express myself creatively, just kind of sharing what I'm going through, and sharing my thoughts, my creative thoughts. And then finally, therapy or self-therapy. Like I said, I've been in therapy 15 years, but right now I'm looking for a therapist that specializes in recovery from parental narcissistic abuse, and that hasn't been that easy. So I've enlisted, there's a therapist, his name is Jay Reed. I believe he's in San Francisco, California. He practices in California. I'm not in that state. So he has a self-therapy program on his website that I enrolled in, and I also am a member of the Facebook group. And so it's a self-paced self-therapy, specifically recovering from parental narcissistic abuse, and it's great. It's tough going through, but I'm kind of slowly working through that. While I still look for a good therapist that specializes in that. So I'll go more in depth of these techniques in future videos. In the description, I'll list my resources that I mentioned for the techniques I mentioned. If I missed anything, or if you want me to go in more in depth about something I said, let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and click the notification button to let you know when I upload a new video. Also share this video if you think that someone else will find it helpful. Thank you for watching.